one movie in particular. It can be more than one, but what would you say has been a movie you really love to watch based on its leadership example?
Well, that's really interesting. So for me, I believe, that leadership is inspiring and encouraging others to achieve their full potential. That's my definition of leadership, right? And I also believe that leadership comes from within, right? And it's this whole idea, like, in order to trust others, we need to trust ourselves first. In order to show kindness or compassion to others, we need to begin with showing kindness or compassion to ourselves. So I believe that, like, leadership comes from within, and an example of that for me is Rocky.
Eh.
Yeah, and this whole idea, like, the underdog, right? But he didn't give up, and so he was self-led, right? And he had his coach Mickey, but like Rocky was like this model of perseverance and not giving up and pushing through. But in terms of a leader in a movie, and this might be a surprise, but it's Empire Strikes Back. You want to know why?
Of course, yes.
It's one scene. Yoda, the ultimate leader, coach, teacher. All right, so when Luke Skywalker goes to Dagobah to find Yoda, he crashes his X-Wing fighter in a swamp, and it sinks underneath the water. And Yoda's teaching Luke the Force. And Yoda instructs Luke to raise the X-Wing fighter out of the swamp. And Luke begins, and he extends his hand, and and for a while, the X-Wing fighter starts to rise just a little bit. But as it starts to go, I think Luke is filled with self-doubt, and the power that would be necessary to lift it up, he thinks it's impossible. So he gives up and he walks away. And then Yoda looks at the X-Wing fighter and puts his hands out, and he raises the X-Wing fighter out of the water and brings it forward and gently lands it on the shore. And Luke walks over in disbelief and says, "I don't believe it." And Yoda says, "That is why you fail." And for me, I think that is such a powerful lesson that we need to believe it. We need to believe it in our heart that it can happen. We need to believe it to see it. And I think that Yoda teaches us this incredible, powerful lesson in that moment.
Okay, can you just really quick for our listeners do your best Yoda impression of that line, please?
So funny, guys. I actually considered doing that when I was.
No, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
All right. So Luke says, I'm glad you didn't ask me to do Jar Jar Binks or something like that. So Luke says, "I don't believe it. That is why you fail."
Yes, Academy Award right there. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. That is going to live on the internet, and your students are going to find that.
I love the line about, like, there is no try. There's only do or do not. There is no try. I think that's just such a great message that Yoda shares with Luke. So for me, I do believe that teachers are leaders, right? And that leaders teach as well. And that's why, I chose Yoda. Now I could have chosen like Braveheart or The Gladiator, which I also love, and they're really inspiring. And the Braveheart scene, freedom, like that inspiration, the Mel Gibson, William Wallace, like leading the charge. But I decided to go more of like the lead from within Rocky or the ultimate teacher Yoda.
That's awesome. There's so much gold in that. So you know what I was thinking is, as you were mentioning that is, and I'd be interested in talking about the comparisons of that scene and the scene in the Bible where Jesus wants Peter to walk on water, and when his faith sinks, he starts to sink. Do you see comparisons at all between those two?
George Lucas was so well read, right? And read so much spiritual work in Eastern philosophy. And so I'm sure that he was, fluent in the Bible's teachings as well. I'd never thought about that, but that's so true, right? It's about faith.
Yep.
It's about faith and faith that, and a leader has to, believe in their purpose and their cause so much, right? And where others might doubt, the leader has to know, has to have clarity. And I think in both of those, like Yoda had clarity in the story in the Bible, Jesus had clarity, but the disciple doubted, right? And while it's not always easy to have that sense of clarity and purpose, but when we do have that sense of purpose and we know what we're about, then it's like when you know the why, the how and the what are revealed. And I just love that idea when you have a strong sense of purpose.
You just had your own moment right there, your own Yoda moment. Say that one more time. When you know the why.
When you know your why, the how and the what are revealed. Does that make sense? So like if you, because so much of us are like, what's my purpose? What's my meaning? What am I here for? And when you discover that, you'll figure out how to get there.
If Yoda and Jesus had a baby, it'd be Matthew Arau. That's what I'm learning right now.
I don't really know what to say. I'm going to step in it, whatever I say here.